Hi everyone, and thank you for subscribing to my channel. Today I want to speak about an update on the knife attack that took place in Dublin on Capel Street on Tuesday evening, when a man attacked two Gardaí with a knife and resulted in one of the guard ending up in hospital, and he was discharged. But of course, immediately the mainstream media came out and said that it was an Irish born and Irish citizen. Now this is interesting because in the last number of days, obviously the story has developed, not through mainstream media, mind, but by people who were there recording videos, and obviously in terms of information that's come out as well. And the media really have been trying to bury this story in the political classes as well. And of course that's not really surprising when you consider the narrative that's been pushed by the Irish mainstream media around what's taken place across Irish society. Now, the man who was 23, who was charged with assault causing harm. Now, of course, this is a charge which could be upscaled over the next period of time. He's due to be back in court next week, and he has been remanded on custody until Wednesday of next week. And I assume the charges will be upgraded because, as you see from so many of the videos and what was doing the rounds, initially he went out and he shouted Allah Akbar, which is a battle cry. We know we've been used in many terrorist attacks, for instance, before. And of course this hasn't been even mentioned as a terrorist attack. Now, the man went by the name of Abdullah Khan, and he was arrested at the scene, and he was in possession of a knife, and he pushed for bail, or his defence solicitors, I think, pushed for bail, and that was rejected by the Gardaí, and obviously the court judge had to abide by the Gardaí in terms of objecting to any bail that could have been awarded to this man. And of course, as I said, he's been remanded until next Wednesday. But of course, he was born, I understand, to Pakistan parents who were immigrants to Ireland. And again, it's just absolutely just remarkable what's taking place across society. I spoke in my previous video about the city centre, about the way it's been ran into the ground. Years and years it's been ran into the ground by the political establishment. And on top of that, we've seen massive influx of immigration centres, and on top of that, into the area, massive amounts of emergency accommodation, and many Irish people, and of course people from outside Ireland, are profiting massively from both huge multi-million euro, if not billion euro, industries that are growing year on year, that I've covered again in many videos, most recently about the homeless industrial complex, it should be called, or homeless industry. But again, immediately the media were straight out about this case to say there was so much misinformation being spread, and they were quick off the block to say it was an Irish citizen. But what they weren't quick off the block to talk about was about the safety of people around Dublin City, and making it a proud, vibrant, historical, full of culture, a city that we're all proud of. But of course it's been ran into the ground by the successive political establishments, again, who have just run the place, as I said, into the ground, and at the same time neglected to support so many vibrant working class communities in around the inner city. Now, of course, this could be used by the Gardaí to clamp down on rights, essentially, and let's see how that develops over the next period of time. The political establishment, again, went out in force to say this is shouldn't be tolerated and all the usual nonsense. But again, they've pushed it on with their absolute madness in Irish society, with the immigration chaos and many more social and economic disasters all at their feet in terms of implementing those policies. And also what's very important with this, I think, as well, is the whole discussion around citizenship. This is very important, because over the last few years we've seen many people being awarded Irish citizenship, and again, it's such a lax way of getting into the country in terms of the passport essentially meaning something, and the pride of your place essentially meaning something, in terms of the history, the connections all of us have with Ireland, in terms of our families, in terms of that goes back generations, in terms of the history, the culture, the heritage that's ingrained into each and every one of us. But again, at the same time, when citizenship has been handed out essentially like confetti to a massive extent in Ireland, it devalues the whole role and notion of Irish citizenship. It boils down to, you could have up to 5 years residence. It doesn't have to be consecutive, which again Just shows you somebody could come for a couple of years, go away and come back for 3 years and then claim citizenship. 3 years married to an Irish citizenship. There's no major tests in terms of becoming a citizen, in terms of understanding Irish history, understanding Irish culture, heritage, and that is vitally important in terms of Ireland, like anywhere. Like when you're, even analogy would be if anybody's moving to say a football club or anything, they would know about the history of the town, the history of the supporters, the history of the people who built those clubs. That is critically important when they move there, rather than understanding what's important. And I think rather than just coming to a place and being used as an economic unit and having no proper involvement in society, and what's happening around Dublin in particular, and I'm sure it'll happen in many more places around the country, is the ghettoisation of different nationalities, and that's what's going to happen in Dublin. It's happening currently in Dublin City, and again, this is going to lead to major tensions in the weeks, months and years ahead because of what's going on. And of course, issues of criminality, many more issues arise from the ghettoisation of different communities. And I said there's no plan for proper integration, so there should be a value system in place where people come into the country, understand about our history, understand about our culture, understand about our heritage, and respect it, rather than this nonsense of coming out and just really disregarding the interests of the country you're in, and as well in terms of the massive and hugely important and significant history to all of us in terms of our families and in terms of anybody who comes to any country, wherever you live, because it is critically important what citizenship ultimately should mean. Some other countries, for instance, you have to revoke your original citizenship before you get citizenship of other countries, but of course in Ireland it becomes a massive way to move in, and of course that's a big issue in Irish society in terms of the political establishment. So there's no understanding, for instance, for people of the Constitution, no understanding of rights and obligations of citizens and all this sort of stuff, I think, which is critically important. But again, who benefits? It's always, again, who benefits? Those at the very top of society benefit in terms of the way labour and the mobility of international labour, in terms of cheap wages, mass migration. It's a globalist agenda, and of course the whole devaluation of the idea of a country's sovereignty is critically important to understand in terms of the context of this. And you see this in terms of what's happening with the devaluation, for instance, of Irish citizenship, and these arguments coming out to say this man, for instance, who perpetrated this attack was an Irish citizen and Irish born and all this sort of type of stuff, rather than really looking behind it to see what's really going on in Irish society. Of course, the media won't look at that because they're all paid by the Irish political establishment to talk about these major societal issues in an open and honest fashion. And it's critically important that people discuss these, build a country that puts the interests of the people first, not the interests of anybody else, the big oligarchs, the big employers, the rack renting landlords and all those as well, who actually are trying to profit from this misery as well of so many people who are struggling. But again, just a few thoughts on what's going on, an update on this attack that took place, and this is what's going on in Dublin. Absolutely disgraceful. And thanks for the support with videos, and slán go fóill. Bye bye.